It's 2019 and over 60% of children are without fathers in South Africa, according to AfricaCheck. And majority of those fathers have absconded their responsibilities as fathers. And joining me in the studio to talk about this is the Let's Talk Pap Health host Penny Libyani, family law attorney Jennifer Stoller, and family law advocate Renee Katawaru. And good evening, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And that 60%, Penny, you should know, anecdotally, at least from the number of cases you handled on your show, that this is indeed a serious situation. Is 60% an exaggeration?
Well, it's not really an exaggeration, but I think, looking at the backdrop of where we come from as a country, migrant laborers, and just the, historical background of us as a country where fathers were never in the home, it's a continuation of that, but in a very interesting way, because fathers of those children could be living in the same city with those children, but just not living in the same houses with them. And the African, community, African children are the highly affected.
Sure, and the key point that I want to focus on is that of child maintenance support.
Okay, so I was actually talking to Jennifer that, the Children's Act of 2005 covers a whole lot of other aspects about rights and responsibilities of the child. But the maintenance is just, a fourth tier of that. And the main focus, the problem is that the main focus is the exchange of actual money. But there's so much more when it comes to like raising children, the responsibilities that fathers have, the responsibility that the mothers have, and it's stipulated by government what it's supposed to be. But the biggest bickering and fights are around the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Renee, let me start with you first on this one. The extent to which fathers who are supposed to pay maintenance for their children are absconding their responsibilities. Do you have a sense?
Well, Tom, as you've seen now, lately in the newspapers, there's a massive clampdown on parents who are absconding and not paying maintenance. Their homes are being executed, and they are being imprisoned, in fact. So let it be a sign. There's
People
a warning.
are being imprisoned for this?
Definitely they are. And their homes are being
Under
sold.
what circumstances would that happen?
In the event that they are violating a court order. In relation to pay maintenance, there are damages claims for every single month that maintenance is not paid, and then there are consequences.
Well, and Jennifer, there could be any number of reasons why these things happen, right?
Yes,
from
of
your
course.
experience, you tell me what's happening.
So my experience, and the one thing that is the most important aspect, and I think a lot of people don't understand the concept that contact and maintenance is not connected. So just because you have a father or a mother that is not paying maintenance doesn't mean that you say you can't see the kids, no money, no contact. And that is, obviously, it's a hard thing to grasp. If you're not paying for the children, why should you be seeing them? But I think the most important thing that we need to focus on is kids, obviously if there's no abuse, need both parents in their lives. And we need to get to a point where parents need a co-parent and look at the children and go, you're the most important person in our lives, and this is what we're going to do. So people not paying maintenance, most of the time, A, they can't actually afford it. B, they don't want to pay maintenance, so they kind of hide. They hide. I've had someone that was an opponent that literally made himself bankrupt just to not pay maintenance. It was the most absurd thing. And it's completely also got to do with relationships between the mother and the father. If there's a good, solid relationship, you will love your child more than you just like each other. And I think that's so important.
And also there's just to add on that, like separating the fact that, our relationship didn't work out, but there is children that came out of that. Both of us still have responsibilities towards those children. So you find situations like, if I don't have access to you, then I'm absconding my responsibilities to the child. Or since you don't have access to me, then you're like, then I'm not going to, do what needs to be done for the children. Whereas the court stipulates specifically that you have rights and responsibilities and obligations, both parents.
Well, I want to go back to I'll come back to those parts of the other parenting responsibilities, staying with the money. That why should people be sent to prison when money can be deducted from their incomes? I mean, SARS is able to collect.
It's very hard to get a garnishee order against someone's salary. So I've done a garnishee order before where it was granted. So the problem is that every single maintenance court works differently, right? So if I go to Randburg, there's a procedure that's what happens in Randburg. If I go to Johannesburg, there's a procedure that happens in Johannesburg. It's such a hard thing because a garnishee order also places a burden on the employer to pay. So you're saying to the employer, you now need to pay maintenance to this person. So there's a lot of mechanisms that you have. You can attach retirement annuities now. You can attach their pension funds. You can attach, I've had a matter where I went, and I know this sounds terrible, but he didn't pay him any maintenance, and I went and I attached all his stuff in his house. And like he got home and he didn't have anything, and then he started to realize, you know what, actually I need to pay for my kids.
Yeah, but how many mothers can have access to a lawyer to be able to?
100%.
And given what you've just said there, Jennifer, that the system is different from place to place, why should that be the case? And if that is so, and you say as a fact, then it must be confusing to,
it's so confusing.
to members of the public, the mothers themselves, and probably many have given up, are no longer approaching the authorities for any intervention.
So I'm part of the, it's called the Gauteng Family Law Forum. And what we essentially are doing is that it's a lot of family law attorneys, anyone that actually wants to deal with family law. And we get to a point where we write to the courts and say, this needs to be the same. This needs to do the family law system, it doesn't work in certain places. And it's very difficult, especially being an attorney wanting justice. Justice, sometimes the wheels turn very, very, very slowly. And it costs clients a lot of money. So now I have a client that comes to me and says, I need maintenance, I can't afford to feed my children, and I turn around and say, okay, well, here's my fee agreement. So it's hard to be like, okay, you pay me to get money. So what I always do, and the public needs to know, they can do it themselves. They can go to the court in the jurisdiction where they live, where the child lives or where they work, and they fill in a form with their expenses and their invoices, and they take everything with them, and they take the child's unabridged birth certificate, and they can actually run the process themselves. They don't need an attorney.
Okay, we'll talk about other things that they can do and your experience in the system, as well as the broader society, if it can come to the party and help, support
100%.
those mothers who are seeking justice.
And fathers.
And fathers.
Fathers, of course. Tabo is in Germiston. Tabo?
Hi, good evening, Tim, and to your panel there.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome, yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. To both you and your panel there, I don't have a problem. Actually, what I would like to say is that we've got responsible, fathers out there who pay maintenance every month to their kids out there, but unfortunately, that money doesn't even reach those kids. Actually, what their mothers do, they take those monies and go to hair salons and do expensive, hairstyles. They wear expensive clothes with those maintenance monies. And then I'm one of those that pay maintenance money every month. But those children are my kids out there. They wear torn clothes. So what I'm saying, government, as much as, they go all out in terms of enforcing this, making sure that, fathers out there, pay for the maintenance of, towards the maintenance of their kids. But there has to be, fathers must get value for their money. We need value for our money, to make sure that at the end of the day, our money indeed reaches, the children.
Well,
and I think...
you can engage them.
No, money does not raise children. Nothing stops you as a father to go to the nearest department store and be the one who buy the clothes for the children. Stop.
No,
you can't excuse that and saying, I give the mother the money to... South African men need to... Actually, men generally need to realize that nurturing a child, it doesn't happen because you're female. If you give yourself time to nurture a child and spend time and take responsibility of things, there's no way that says fathers can't buy clothes for children, fathers can't buy food for children, fathers can't show up at school on time with you have to be interested to do that. Stop allowing women to stop you from taking responsibility for your children. And the government can't do anything about it. These are you and the women who you have children with responsibilities.
Yes, Rene?
Tim, as much as I empathize with the caller, and I've heard this often, that's not the only mechanism in order to pay a cash payment for maintenance. There are various ways of doing it. For example, I can pay the educational institution directly for the maintenance that the child needs, so the money doesn't go awry. So in that way, you can ascertain, surely, that the mother's not abusing the money.
Okay, let's use this as an example as one of the issues. So if you go to, Let me do an ABC, step-by-step thing. If you have an issue with maintenance, with support, and the involvement of a partner in the raising of children, what do you do? Where do you start? How do you go about it?
You can start at our office system. We are government service. We are public service. We open.
Yeah.
The floodgates are open to us. Access to justice is there.
Yeah.
We deal with this on a daily basis. And we deal with it in an environment that's not austere. It's non-litigious. We even mediate it. We do parenting plans. So we can listen to both sides. We can even listen to the child. And we can make suggestions to parties, and it's conciliatory.
So it's not necessarily the aggrieved party in terms of the maintenance payments, but even a father who may be denied access can
Yes.
Definitely.
yeah.
On many various issues.
Yeah.
When she said that contact and maintenance are two different issues, when you go to the magistrate court, there's the actual children's court that deals with the rights of the children. Then there's a maintenance court where that deals with the actual calculations of that. Then there's options to go to mediation, where you can sit and draw up a plan based on your own lifestyles and what you've exposed your children to, how you'd like to raise them. And South African men need to stop saying, well, the court doesn't favor me.
Well, both. I think
both of them.
Both mother
everyone's
and father need to take accountability. And I think the biggest thing that I find is, so I have a client that comes into my offices and they say, I'm not seeing my children, or I'm not doing this, and my ex, she has done this to me, and it's always my ex has done this, my ex has done this. And there's so much conflict, and you must understand, when there's conflict, how is a child supposed to rise?
Yes.
And how is a child supposed to get to a point where they can actually get out of that toxic environment? So for me, what I've started doing now, and mediation is amazing, and I'm for mediation, but I've been started working now with two amazing women. So one is Gia Bass and the other woman is Lee Wade. And basically what we do is that they're like life coaches and part of Dads Indeed. We take the parents and we go, what is wrong with these parents themselves? What issues do they have themselves? And let's kind of get them to a point where they can get on the same page. And if they can't get on the same page, then at least not hate on each other's pages.
Sure. Let's talk to Dikeledi, who's in Bramley, Joburg. Dikeledi. Dikeledi? Okay, well, I don't think we still have it. Continue with
So that for me is the biggest. We need to get to a point as a society where we start protecting our children. And every divorce and every split that happens, what happens to the child? Because I even sit down with some of my clients and they say, yeah, my ex is doing this to the children and she's saying that they must do this. I'm like, stop. I literally look at them and I go, I'm not talking about your ex right now. I do not care about your ex. What I care about, are your kids happy?
Sure.
Are your kids in the middle? Because you must understand, kids will always start trying to play both of their parents to try, so they'll say, I don't want to go to Dad's house. And then the mom will say, he doesn't want to go. They get to a point where they don't know what's right and wrong.
Renee,
Yes.
let's assist our viewers now who are dealing with this.
Certainly. Let me say also a common problem that are faced by South African fathers are unmarried fathers.
Yes.
Because our law may be at a disadvantage to them, in the sense that whether a mother is married or unmarried, she has automatic rights given to her. However, fathers don't have that.
Yeah.
If you're unmarried, you would have to acquire those rights. And how do you acquire those rights? People reach a dead end and there's a dispute with the mother and they leave it at that. However, our offices offer the opportunity in a different neutral environment to deal with these issues. So we, in a way, cure the disadvantage that they have by coming to us. So we would sit
And your
down.
offices being
Being the Office of the Family Advocate, a government institution
Yeah.
that is nationwide and is free to everybody.
okay.
And we do mediation.
Let's see if we can talk to Dikeledi from Bramley.
Hi.
Yes, welcome, Dikeledi.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Yes.
Go ahead. We're listening to you.
Okay. What happens to fathers that are very responsible? They pay maintenance. They look after their kids. They are on the medical aid, but they are being denied access of their kids. I'm a grandmother. I'm speaking from experience. I haven't seen my grandson for 10 months because of mothers that are fighting with fathers,
Sure.
forgetting that the core person in their life is children. What do they really have support, these fathers? Because truly speaking, they also need that support. It's not supposed to be mothers only. At the end of the day, they're supposed to be responsible, both of them. It's supposed to be a 50-50 partnership. Please help me.
Thank you.
Where someone is being denied access, it's dependent on whether there's an existing court order or there isn't a court order. If there isn't a court order, my sense in the Children's Act is clear on this issue. Adopt a conciliatory attitude and approach to it as opposed to litigation and putting on the boxing gloves, as it were. And then we offer these services as well. And these days, if you just approach a children's court as well, they'll ask you first, have you attempted mediation? And if you haven't, they will actually send you to us. And we, in this environment, will deal with that issue. You are paying maintenance, yes, but I haven't seen my child in 10 months. Okay, what do we do here? We try and take them out of that arena of the conflict and bring them into a neutral environment, try and show what is known as child focusedness. Take them out of the picture, take off the boxing gloves, take off the spousal issues, and let us see how we can get to the crux of this matter and how it is that this child who has a constitutional right to both those parents.
Exactly.
How is it that we reach midway in terms of co-parenting this child and reaching the best possible result, in as much as both of them got rights? If it goes further than that and there is a court order in place, there clearly is recourse. What is the recourse? There's contempt of court proceedings, and as I stated earlier, if you continuously are in violation of that, you will face serious consequences.
Yeah.
And I don't even think people should wait for 10 months. If it's 3
No.
months already,
If
it's a
it's even a
problem.
day,
Even if it's, you
yeah.
know, like, go, take it forward.
We're talking about the state institutions and the legal instruments that are available, right? But in a socio-cultural setting, you may have come across some creative ways of resolving these matters.
Look, the socio-cultural way always gets a deadlock because, you know, there's a lot of people who find themselves having children out of wedlock, and then people argue that someone didn't pay damages, or this one is not recognized by this family, or somebody was having an affair, and all of those things. Yes, the law is the last call, but I find that there's a big struggle, you know, in the cultural context to try and sort of like circumvent this matter. Because you find that a lot of families go, we can't get involved, he didn't pay lobola, damages were not paid. But in the long run, the people who are really highly affected by all of this is the children.
Yeah.
So that's why it takes both the parents to want to come to a place of agreement for the sake of the children, and which is what the family advocate really speaks to. Because when you're going to go to the lawyers, you're going to pay a lot of money. And
Not even that, though. You need to know your rights.
Rights.
And that's the biggest thing for me. I feel like people don't know. So if you have a couple that, let's say, for example, have a child, and then they split up, automatically people are going to say that child should be with the mother,
Yeah.
because the mother is the primary caregiver.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, dads are stepping up these days.
Yeah.
They are stepping up.
Right, let's hear from Peter, who's on the line from Pretoria. Peter?
Yes, how are you?
Okay, welcome.
First thing first, I think maybe the courts must look into this matter because I think the courts tend to disadvantage the fathers. I'll tell you my story. You know, I'm paying maintenance for my child, and then in court, when I was taking from them, they find that, yes, I'm paying the maintenance. But she insisted that I must do 100% first thing first. And we are working and maybe getting the same salary, right? They overpowered me because of they were on her side. Then I carried on. Ne? And then the child is schooling by me. Sometimes the child comes by my place. Ne? I stay with the child, and she still keeps the money for maintenance. And I cannot get excess of that money while the child is with me. Can you imagine? It means now I'm maintaining double while the money that I'm giving to her is not being used to benefit the child. You understand? So I think maybe the court should maybe be cautious when looking into this matter, not focusing on not disadvantaging the fathers. Thank you.
Renee?
Peter, if the circumstances are that there may have been a court order in place that Peter is paying his maintenance, however, the child is now living with him, that might be due to an arrangement between the parents that it has happened. It's a simple thing. He can approach the maintenance court and apply for a variation of that order. But if that's not the case, maintenance is a dual obligation. it rests on both the mother and the father, and it depends on their ability to pay. Notwithstanding the fact that the child is residing with him, the child still needs maintenance. The child has a constitutional right to basic shelter, accommodation, education, and health, definitely. So he would still need to maintain the child, even if the child's staying with him.
So you were saying that, there could be complications when it comes to the home situation. So whatever negotiations may take place, let's say within families, this still has to be reduced to a court order, you think?
Well, I don't think necessarily, but an agreement of some sort, a binding document of some sort, because we, through the show I've come to learn is that people, if there's no agreement from the get-go, in routine, people get entangled in a lot of things. And firstly, it's emotionally draining to go through the court process. It's very intimidating, especially if you don't know your rights. And, there's a whole document that governs that. So people get caught up in their own emotions instead of going through the process. But what I always say to people is to break it down. If you contact is the issue right now, deal with contact and visitation alone. I had a situation of wanting to have access to travel documents. I dealt with that. So when I could handle maintenance, I'll deal with that, because once you want to deal with everything at the same time, and the fact that this relationship didn't work out, there are these children, they want your emotional support, it can be very strain us on both parties. So remove the emotions, deal with what needs to be addressed at that particular time. Act like adults. Like
mom and dad up.
Mom and dad up.
Yeah.
But I heard earlier that you were saying men are beginning to come forward and discharging their responsibility. So the situation is improving now.
Honestly, I have 90% of my clients are the best dads. And it's sad to see, because their rights, because of the unmarried father's rights clause in the Children's Act, which I've actually gotten to a point where we're going to do a class action to declare it unconstitutional, people's fathers are actually not seeing their kids as much as they should be seeing their kids, because the law, so a woman get told, okay, you don't actually have to let them see the child, and at the end of the day, no one is helping them. And there is an organization called Dads Indeed, and it's one of the best organizations that, as a father, you can literally go. Lee Wade will help you. She will show you, actually, if there's an issue, and because sometimes dads they can't parent naturally.
Yeah, and sometimes they just throw their hand in the air and leave it at that.
Just an opinion. It's something that was discussed earlier. What if we reached a point where there was land redistribution and those who are not looking after their children would not qualify for such land?
A lot of people won't get it. Yeah. I can tell you that.
Or maybe, suddenly we might see a lot of people come forward and say, I want to qualify for this land. Otherwise, I might lose it. And thanks very much for having been my guest. I appreciate it. And Renee, Jennifer, and Penny, thanks again. That's all we had for you tonight. Join me again tomorrow morning on the Modise Network. I'll be talking to the EFF President, Julius Malema, at 9 o'clock, and we'll also be looking at the state of affairs at the National Prosecuting Authority. Anli Hatting is standing by with the news from us. Good night to you.